Stress. If you're like most of us, you've experienced throughout this past year some high levels of stress. And who can blame us? The brain is hardwired not to like change, and there's been a lot of change. So consequently, we've felt stressed. The good news is there are a lot of things we can do, and that's what this session is all about. SOS, manage my stress. I like to think of ourselves as a big battery pack, and when the battery pack becomes depleted, just like in our mobile devices, we feel stressed. Now there's 3 causes for this. The first is what we typically think of when we think of stress. Our time and energy are being depleted. The second one is about emotions. If we're feeling emotional distress or big, heavy emotions, well, we can feel stressed. And the third one is when our identity and our values are being compromised. All of these together, or any one of these alone, can cause us to feel stress and need some SOS relief. We know when we're stressed that our immune system is compromised and our body starts telling us that we're under stress. We feel things like increased acne, or see things like increased acne. We experience headaches, chronic pain, digestive issues, decreased energy, frequent sickness, insomnia. Anybody here have those problems? Good old depression, or even rapid heartbeat, maybe excessive sweating. All of these things could be, of course, signs of some underlying health issues. It also could be stress. So go to the doctor, and chances are your doctor might tell you things might be a little stressful for you and you need to do something about that. So today you're in luck, because we're going to talk about SOS, manage my stress strategies. There's 4 different strategies we're going to take a look at. The first one is buddy my body. What you do for your body, you do for your brain. What you do for your brain, you do for your body. Both are impacted under stress, and it's the first thing we need to do to take care of our stress and replenish our battery pack, if you will. We're going to talk about emotions. That's a big piece when we're talking about managing stress. We're going to get logical. And finally, we're going to talk about people, because at the end of the day, well, it's you and me, baby. We're working on this together, and we better figure out how to manage our stress. We're out here to talk about buddy my body. This is the very first thing to do when you're under stress. I recommend breathing. It sounds so silly, but have you ever noticed that when you're under stress, you forget to breathe? Well, there are some tried and true great methods for breathing. Most people, as we age, from little on, we forget how to breathe properly. So first thing first, you need to breathe properly. And that means stop breathing from up here. That's only going to make it worse. And start breathing with your whole body. Imagine that the air comes up through your toes and on up, and you fill your body up like a great big helium balloon. Another great way to start breathing is to yawn. That's right, I'm pretty much the only presenter that asks people to yawn during their presentations. Yawning helps the brain cool off. So when you're feeling stressed, do some yawns. Think of a big cat and their yawns. Fill up from the bottom. I recommend filling up for 4. Holding that yawn for 7. And then exhaling for 8. There's some great research about it. Look up the 4, 7, 8 breathing techniques online and you'll see more. Let's do a couple just for practice. All right, ready? Big breath in for 4, thinking from your toes on up. Hold it for 7. And now exhale for 8. You've got the idea. Do another yawn with me. Ready? Go. How do you feel? I'm relaxed. I hope you're relaxed as well. Another thing you need to do to buddy your body is move. We get so engrossed in our computers or on our tablets or whatever the case may be, and we forget the importance of movement. Every 60 minutes, shut it down or put it on pause and stand up and move. Bonus if you get outside. That's why we're filming out here. It's important for us to get outside. The Japanese coined it forest bathing years ago. And we know even today that the research shows us that we heal when we see or are out in greenery. That's why so many hospitals have a green outdoor space for patients and visitors to sit and convalesce and feel better. Even a picture of greenery will do it. So in your office, on your screensaver, put up a picture of green and the outdoors. And when you can, get up and get outside. All right, some other things you can do are aromatherapy. Lavender is a great calming scent. Or green tea. There are wonderful antioxidant benefits to drinking green tea every day. I would recommend, though, if it has some caffeine, keep it before lunch, not after. The closer we get to bedtime, we might have problems. Which is another SOS strategy for our body, is getting enough rest. Have a set routine. Have what a friend of mine calls sleep hygiene. Turn off those devices well before you go to bed. Go to bed at the same time. Keep it cool in your bedroom. Keep it dark in your bedroom. Another great technique is massage. You can go to a massage therapist, or you can give yourself your own massages. Just rubbing your hands, stretching your hands. You can do that all throughout the day. It's amazing the calm that you feel. Need a bigger body massage than just your hands? Try some yoga. I recommend stretching and holding the stretches for at least a minute. And doing some big, beautiful breaths from the bottom up, all while you're doing the stretches. Another important one is prayer and meditation. It's essential that we stay connected to God, to our higher power, every single day. And then take time to play and to laugh. Watch those funny videos, tell a joke or two. Just look for the bright side of things. Play. How do you like to play? Legos? Coloring? Those things you loved to do when you were a child? Bring them back to today. I know a lot of people like their games on their devices. I do too, but you got to be careful because those devices are designed to be addictive. So make sure you're also pausing and taking time to set down the electronics, turn them off. I just read another article today that was encouraging people to take an entire day every week where you tell your friends and families, I'm off social media, I'm off the phone. If you need me, you're going to have to find a different way to get me because I'm not going to be on this phone answering texts 24/7. And then one of the other really important things that I think we overlook is as we're putting all these great techniques into our routine, well, it's also important for us to break the routine. Take a vacation. Find someplace else to go. I've got a dear friend who doesn't necessarily travel a lot, but she goes through the store and finds a different area that she normally shops to hang out and just to see what else is there. It's a break from the routine. Let's talk eating and drinking when it comes to Buddy My Body for stress management. Stopping everything and taking a drink of water is a wonderful idea. Stopping for a sugary beverage, probably not so good, or a glass of wine or another adult beverage, again, not so good, especially when it comes to managing your stress. Eating a healthy snack, vegetables and fruit, absolutely a wonderful idea as well. Just make sure you're not overdoing it. Another great Buddy My Body technique is to just get busy. Go do something. Set your timer for 5, 10, 20 minutes and go, I'm just going to do this for a short bit, and it's enough to break the routine and get you out of your funk. Another surefire way is mindfulness. Beautiful lilacs this time of year in Minnesota are just the clear ticket to remind us to use all of our senses to ground ourselves. What do you smell? Hopefully it's good things wherever you're at right now. How about using your physical senses? Think about, how does it feel to sit on the chair? How about your feet? What are they touching? What are they feeling? Think about taste. Don't go licking the computer screen, but pay attention to taste, smell, touch. All of our senses are so important and they ground us. So take a moment to use your senses for mindfulness. And the last tip for Buddy My Body is my favorite one, and that's about getting out and getting into some water. It might be taking a bath, it might be a hot tub, it might be a pool, or in the land of 10,000 lakes in Minnesota, we go for a swim, which all of you, I hope, can relate to as well. All right, I think we've covered it all. Number one, breathe from the bottom up. Let's do another one. Feels so great. Take a break, get up, stand up. Sitting is the new smoking. Move, get outside and move. Have some green tea, maybe some aromatherapy. Many things you can do to buddy your body. Understanding emotions is our next step to managing stress. I call it E-motion, to really emphasize this fact that emotions are always running through us, much like a river is always flowing. And sometimes the river is calm and peaceful, and sometimes the river is a little bit chaotic. Several years ago, my family went on a camping trip, and at one point, we camped at a site that was just absolutely gorgeous. It was so peaceful. There was a babbling brook right by the campsite. I wanted to stay awake all night and listen to the peaceful nature of it. But of course, if we would have stayed there for the entire 10 days, that would have been kind of boring. And I think that's the same way that it is for emotions. We have this myth that the only good emotions, if you will, are those that are peaceful and controlled. And the truth of the matter is we need the gamut of emotions to help us cope with life. A couple days later on our trip, we went on a whitewater rafting trip. It was amazing. We were soaked not only with water, but with emotions. We screamed, we yelled, we were fearful, we were excited. It was so amazing. Now, would I wanted to go whitewater rafting every single day on the vacation? No. And it's the same with emotions. They ebb and flow. And the key to emotional intelligence and managing our stress is to be able to navigate both circumstances and know when is it the right time for which emotions. And first of all, to be able to just take the emotions that we're experiencing and understand what they're telling about us. Too many times we have this idea that any kind of heightened emotions are bad. Crying is bad. I mean, really, real men don't cry. The truth of the matter is, crying is our body's way of releasing emotion. Or how about this one? Women are too emotional. That's like saying your hearing is too good, or your taste buds are too refined. Honestly, we need to start using the emotions and the information that they're giving us and not judging good or bad. In fact, I would argue that all social change has been a result of understanding heightened emotions like anger. When we become angry, we're looking at an injustice in the world. And when we look at that and understand where it's coming from, we can make a positive change in our world. That's what the emotional intelligent leader does. That's what we do when we're managing stress. From there, we can navigate where we want to go. Just the way you can change your mind, you can change your emotions. We'll talk about that next in Let's Get Logical. Let's get logical. First, start noticing your emotions. You are never without emotion. A good idea might be to start setting a timer for random times throughout the day. As the timer rings, just ask yourself, what emotions am I noticing? Next, put a name to those emotions. Dr. Daniel Siegel, an expert in emotional intelligence, who's actually worked with Daniel Goleman, who brought this whole idea of emotional intelligence to light, says name it to tame it. The idea is that once an emotion is named, you can begin to control it and tame it. Next, know what the emotions are telling you. Emotions provide information when we understand and listen. We already know the meaning of emotions. I mean, most of us use them to convey meaning all the time when we send text messages. Remember that some emotions generate or contribute to stress. Some emotions release or diminish stress. For an idea of which those emotions are in each category, you can text SOS, that's it, just SOS to 833-747-0070, and you will get my free booklet on managing stress. It actually covers everything we're talking about in this video, and in that booklet is a list of emotions. A list of emotions that contribute to stress, and a list of emotions that can help diminish stress. The fourth step is navigate. Here is where we get to choose which emotions we want and navigate towards them. Just as you can change your mind, you can change your emotions. Many people have grown up with the myth that your emotions are just it and you're stuck with them. If you're angry, well, good luck. You're going to be angry for days maybe. You're a victim to that. The truth of the matter is we can change those. We can navigate to a different emotion that's serving us, but only after we get the information of what that initial emotion is telling us. You might decide to navigate towards some emotions that release or diminish stress. You might wish to navigate to some emotions that ignite you and allow you to greet the world with enthusiasm. You can also talk to your emotions. Fear is often a big one that gets in the way for many of us, me included. So you can ask yourself, hey, what if the fear I'm imagining actually took place? Are there any advantages? Could it be okay? What's the likelihood of this actually coming to fruition anyway? And if it did, who could support you? Another emotion to look at is optimism. We can look at it as an emotion that we want to navigate to, and even as a skill that we work to stretch. What I encourage people to do is make a T-chart, and on one side put the problems that you have. On the other side put the solutions. And then ask yourself, which side is more realistic? Are these problems even realistic? If so, hey, are the solutions realistic? And what do I need to do then to make sure that if something happens, I'm prepared to deal with it? Finally, remember to text SOS to 833-747 and you'll get the free booklet on managing stress. You'll have everything we've covered, and you'll actually have what we're going to cover next as well, which is that last piece to stress and managing our stress. What about the people in our lives when they're causing stress? Hey everyone, welcome to Jane Presents, where we take time to talk about your favorite topic, which is you. Today's edition is about stress, specifically about stress and people. I mean, let's face it, we can't live with them and we can't live without them. So to help us with this tough topic, we've brought in some experts. Today we're welcoming to our show Dr. Casey and Dr. Tim. Let's start with you, Casey. I'd like to know, just when we're thinking about stress and other people, what's the first thing that comes to mind for you? What's the first SOS Manage My Stress rescue tip that you have for our audience?
The first thing that comes up for me is know thyself, right?
Yes.
And when we talk about our model of identity, we talk about these three elements of self-awareness, others' awareness, and intentionality. Always beginning with self-awareness. And when we think about this idea of stress, one of the first things to try to be aware of is, how stressed am I? Right? So many of us, myself included, sometimes don't even realize sort of how much stress we're taking on, and then, a few weeks go by and we just keep our head down and we keep plowing through, and then we'll wake up and go, oh, I can't today.
Yes.
And so if we can be more attuned to ourselves,
Right.
listen to our body, listen to our emotional experience, we can probably be more sort of proactive to take care of things before they become too big. I think the other element of why self-awareness and sort of that mantra of know thyself is so important in the context of stress and everything is when we think about our environment, people we're interacting with, the circumstances, the only thing we really can control is ourselves.
Right.
And so, we can put all kinds of energy into trying to control everything outside of us, which is probably just going to add to the distress and frustration. So start with self-awareness.
Taking responsibility when it comes to others. I'm going to toss it over to Tim. Can you talk to us a little bit about what that really means to take responsibility when it comes to stress in other people?
It's such a big word, and responsibility. And it's one that I think we've been socialized to carry different meanings around it that it's not actually meaning. And I think one of the things that we often assign to this, we'll take responsibility, is this idea of being blamed. And we don't want to be blamed. And responsibility and blame are actually opposites of each other. And I think it's in this fear of being blamed that we refuse to give ourselves permission to acknowledge that we are stressed, because we're afraid of what it might be like on the other side of that blame. And I think in these moments of big disruption, right, that we all have, and we actually have them millions of times a day, maybe not millions, but many.
Can feel like it.
Yeah, but we don't want to look in, as Casey was talking about, that self-awareness. We don't want to admit that we're stressed, that we're distressed, that we're disrupted. And so we start to try to control everything around us that actually doesn't belong to us, that we can't control. And we kind of screw ourselves deeper into this hole. And it's all inside, and it's all around the central thing of I'm not giving myself permission to accept where I'm at right now. And what's that thing that's being hooked in here? And when I accept that I'm disrupted, distressed, and that's okay, and I'm human, and I get to be human, when I accept that, then I can look in and say, well, this thing that's going on right now is hooking this in here. And when I look in there and see what it's hooking, that's like the beginning point of actually being able to take responsibility for myself. I can let go of what I'm trying to control that isn't mine.
Love that.
So this idea of owning what I'm responsible for and letting go of what I can't control, a difficult thing for lots of reasons. And when we talk about it in the context of sort of the stress and you brought up the idea of being in relationship with other, I think what is really important to own is that it actually, our emotional health, our sense of how we are in the moment, that's actually 100% our responsibility. And we get all kinds of mixed messages about that as we come into the world and grow and develop and are reared into being humans. But the reality is absolutely no one else is responsible for my emotional health, which is related to our stress. And that's not to say it's not impacted by others. But unless I'm owning what that impact is about, setting appropriate and helpful boundaries, right? I don't actually get to have resentments about all that stuff, right? Because I'm not owning what I'm responsible for.
Well, that brings to mind mindset. So I often hear the two of you talk about two different mindsets. Casey, would you talk to us, the audience, a little bit about those two mindsets and how that plays into self-awareness and taking responsibility? Mindset, an incredibly important sort of concept and topic that
we tend to think doesn't get enough attention. And in part, because it can be kind of an uncomfortable thing. So the idea here is that for humans, for all of us, I don't care who you are, where you are, what you've accomplished or not, it's just a human process that in every moment, so this one, then this new one, and then now this moment, there are two forces at play within us. The pull or the force to protect ourselves, which gets hooked and triggered several times a day. And when that happens, the classic sense, we get defensive, right? Any metaphor you want to use, we put our walls up, we put our armor on, we go in the box. But what happens in those moments is that urge to protect ourselves is so scary in that moment. It's fear that's bubbling up because we perceived a threat in our environment or in our own self. And what we have to do in that moment to protect our little identities is start to see everything around us as an object that we have to protect ourselves against. But the other truth in there is that we also become disconnected from our own truth, right? Our singular purpose when we're in self-protection is protect. And when that's happening, while sometimes it's necessary, we're disconnected from everything, including our sense of ourself and our truth. And so, to this idea of stress, we're actually not able to look at the truth of our stress, the truth of our emotional experience. It's just nothing comes in, nothing comes out. The other force, the other pull, the other mindset is connection, which is the complete opposite, right? My walls are dropped, my armor is off, I'm out of the box. I'm truly in a space where I can see other people, celebrate difference, get excited about it, as well as see and accept myself, right? And it's those moments when we're in connection, it's the birthplace of all things good. And I don't love the dichotomy of good, bad, but just that sense of, creativity, brainstorming, innovation. We're not worried about, am I going to say the wrong thing? We're able to just be, right? And so getting to moments of being in the connection mindset really should be a primary goal for us, right? Because when we enter moments in the self-protection mindset, here's a rule, it won't go well. It actually doesn't matter what we say, what we do, because as humans we're all connected on sort of a spiritual level, right? Jane, if I'm in self-protection. Even if I'm saying all the right things, right? That I'm just not really open and connected. And that's what you remember about that interaction. And so, when we're coaching people or leaders or anyone or talking to our facilitators, it always starts with, what's your mindset? And when you are in the connection mindset, almost everything gets easier at that point.
Forgiveness, that just jumped out at me. It seems like that's not a word we hear a lot about, and forgiveness of self. Tim, can you take us deeper into forgiveness and how that plays into stress and others?
To your point about asking for forgiveness,
right,
is actually believing in our body and our soul and our heart that person that I'm asking it to is going to give it to me, is going to treat me unconditionally. And so often we won't ask for it because we don't believe that we're worthy of receiving it.
Right.
And so we don't ask for it and we don't give it then either, because we're living in that paradigm of I'm going to be punished for everything I do.
Yeah.
And being related to by someone else from that unconditional place, I think is actually a very rare thing in our world.
Casey, I feel like you have something to
add.
add.
What was coming up for me, I think, kind of going back to the unequivocal truth,
Right.
I'm worthy of love and belonging because I exist. I think what's really important to try to understand on this forgiveness piece is one of the reasons that it can feel difficult to forgive is because we don't believe that about ourselves. And so if I forgive this, right, or even more so, if I forgive myself, or if I'm asking for forgiveness, right, all of those three activities, which are all the same, in order to really do that, I kind of need to foundationally be in a moment where I can know I am worthy of love and belonging, so that if I do this, if I admit wrong, I'm not going to decompensate, right?
Well, there you go. We've just spent about a half an hour talking about SOS-Manage My Stress. We started with Buddy My Body. Remember that what you do for your body, you do for your brain. What you do for your brain, you do for your body. We talked about emotions and that they're always in motion. So we might as well figure out how to navigate them to take us where we want to go. We talked about logic, and that actually brought us back to emotions and how we can use the logic that emotions are telling us to, again, calm ourselves down and look at what's going on and make a plan. Finally, we talked about the tough topic of people and stress. And for that, we welcome Dr. Tim Johansson and Dr. Casey Lanko in, experts in the field of psychology and how we can use their information and their studies and their research and their tool to help us with that topic. And actually, it brought us all back to knowing yourself, knowing others, and intentional behavior, which brings us to love. So with that, I'd encourage you to think about the love in your life, because it is the most positive emotion ever. Use it to be the best that you can be. And I can't wait to see you all in person someday soon.